Mark Selby, CEO of Canada Nickel, advancing the Crawford nickel sulfide discovery, targeting first production by the end of 2027 and unlocking the Timmons nickel district.
Hello.
Hello.
It feels like only 2 days ago you were here.
Yes,
I think
it
it was.
actually. Yes.
Your little rant has caused a little bit of a storm in the market.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good to see.
Well done, you.
Yes.
Naming names, and I guess let's see over the next few days what people want to add to that story. Yeah. So anyone watching this, go and have a look at the article that we put out about that conversation.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. We'll put a link onto this as well from there. But it was a serious thing, right?
Yes.
In terms of that kind of bad research causes knock-on effects. Not good. We need, as an industry, to maybe kind of wake up a little bit. That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about CNC?
Yes.
Sir? Right, we're at PDAC, just around the corner. You've been pounding the streets, lots of meetings. In fact, a little high-profile sesh yesterday.
Yeah.
Doug Ford?
Yeah, Doug Ford,
Who
Industry Minister Vic Fedeli, and Mines Minister George Perry.
Right.
Got a 30-minute conversation with them. Minister Fedeli posted that on his social media, so not telling anything out of school. And again, the one with the size of project we have with Crawford, Western world's largest nickel sulfide operation when fully ramped up, and then even more importantly for governments, both federal and the provincial, There's a number of reasons we're doing the downstream announcement that we did 3 or 4 weeks ago and building these downstream plants, but it really is, in the whole mine to EV strategy that they have at the federal level and in Ontario, it's that first stage processing that really is the critical missing link. So as excited as they are about the mine project, they're even more excited about the processing project. So it's great to be in a jurisdiction like Ontario, where we great access to government and real fundamental support from the government.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of, actually met two last night, ministers, Minister for Mines, Saskatchewan and Ontario.
Okay.
Last night at a do.
Yeah.
It's kind of amusing the way they look at these things, though. Like they look at the company's CEO and go, "Don't do anything that make me look bad."
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So hence the kind of caution and the pace at which they move. But more interestingly enough is, as you say, that kind of food chain that they're engaging with.
Yeah.
So obviously for you, you're concerned with saying, well, what can you do for us?
Yeah.
So what were the conversations like?
Oh no, I mean, very, very constructive. Going this afternoon after we finish our chat here, I'm sitting on a round table with the Natural Resources Minister Wilkinson. Again, the federal government is there trying to find ways to make sure that we can build, a domestic critical supply chain. So, I was asked early on, by someone, what's this year's PDAC going to be different than past ones? And I think really this government presence here, like as you said, you bumped into a few ministers out and about last night, and that presence is really here. And I think, we haven't seen a lot of money, come out of the government yet, but the key is they've made announcements, it takes them a while to basically get the processes, get the regulations in, because again, they're going to be handing out billions of dollars, and we as taxpayers would like them to have some sort of process and criteria in which that money is going to go out the door, and most importantly, go and find good people to actually run this process. So, with pretty much all of the alphabet soup of various programs, the processes are in place, the people are in place, I think with just one exception. And so, I think by the middle part of this year, you're going to start to see a steady stream of funding announcements, from the various government, funding organizations. And, what I've been talking about, since some of those announcements were made is, this is a once in a generation opportunity, particularly with assets the scale of us, to basically build a multi-decade asset with a bunch of free leverage, from the governments, who want critical minerals to be mined and processed here. And so, I think once that kicks in, the market's going to recognize it's like, okay, this money is coming, that we are going to get this free leverage. And I think we'll finally see the re-rate in these Canadian critical minerals projects that we've been waiting for since the announcement last March.
Well, absolutely. I think the interesting thing there was a lot to talk about today because there's a lot happening quite quickly. But if I kind of look to Christmas, just around Christmas period, we've got kind of the Agnico Eagle component, we've got the Samsung component. I mean, for companies like that kind of political engagement must be important, right? They want to see that from you.
Oh, 100%. Again, bureaucrats by definition, you work in government because you're not a risk taker.
Yeah.
And so, having those stamps of approval, in our case from 3 separate companies, Anglo American, Agnico Eagle, and Samsung SDI, just makes it harder, it makes it easier for them to engage with us in a pretty meaningful way.
Right, okay. So I'm looking at the conference, you're in a panel, tomorrow, is that, with a group of, is that right?
There's a new discoveries thing. Our VP Exploration is actually going to be doing that today, and the roundtable is in about 90 minutes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But right, so in terms of that roundtable, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, so basically Minister Wilkinson has a bunch of mining companies at various stages.
Yeah.
And again, just to talk about critical minerals, what's the government doing, what else could they be doing, and so forth. So again, looking forward to being part of
So they're looking for positive feedback, affirmative action, as it were.
Yeah. No, they really do want to find ways to make this whole thing go faster. So.
Right, so why I kind of like talking about these conversations, because when you see politicians get involved, it's kind of like, it's just kind of, they're shoved in a room, put an assistant and going, go and speak to these people, say something nice, then right, we've got to be somewhere else 5 minutes later. But there's a whole sequence and series of get your touch points with you guys.
Yeah.
So the roundtable will do what for you?
No, again, I think, there's, at the government level, you have a minister, right? Well, underneath that minister, is several thousand bureaucrats in that department. And so, the chance to basically have that kind of FaceTime and visible FaceTime, when the minister sends a clear signal to, everybody in government and the bureaucrats that, okay, this is a priority project. If you're getting 200 phone calls a day, this is one of the phone calls, that you should be taking.
Right, okay. So, there we go, government bit, political bit, very important part of this because of everything that it implies in terms of engagement, social license, and all of that kind of good stuff. I want to talk to you about Crawford, because Crawford is, what's the flag? It's the flagship in the sense it's the first one.
Yes.
Of many, we're going to talk about in a second, and how that's moved through the phases quite quickly.
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with one of your guys the other night, technical, in terms of where you came at the drill program. I thought it was fascinating. I mean, give us a little spin on that. What did he say?
Yeah, so one of the key things we did very early on, so within, I think, 6 or 8 weeks, we basically we built our first model and basically put our first pit shell around that. So it's really easy to drill lots of drill meters that are geologically interesting, but actually aren't going to add value to the project.
Because they're not going to be in that pit shell.
Yeah,
it's not going to be mined.
Yes, that's interesting to know, but you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been our guiding. We basically continue to iterate around that. And so basically it allows you to maximize the amount of meters that actually end up in a resource model. And so, we've drilled off the second largest reserve. We did that very quickly and relatively inexpensively and several years earlier than it would otherwise.
Right, okay. So back to Crawford.
Yeah.
You kind of moved through the phases, feasibility studies, FID. We went for the FID to come. We've got to work out, how you raise the money, where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Having 3 big industry partners is fantastic, but ultimately you're going to need to, put a package together. And we've talked a little bit about how you go about doing that. But once you've done that, people go, oh, it's real.
Yeah.
I think this low-grade stuff seems to work.
Yeah.
Industry seems to be engaged and believe it can work too. But you've got a slew of other opportunities behind this. So how do you kind of manage that? Is it a case of let's stick to it and get this Crawford over the line first and then start moving, or are you drilling and?
No, everything we've done so far, we've been doing things, in parallel. Sometimes things have taken longer than we said they would. But, at the end of the day, we went from 5th drill hole to full feasibility study in just over 4 years, which is less than half the time that it takes. 3 weeks ago, we had a press conference to announce the Downstream business. Again, this is something we announced our net zero metal subsidiary back in 2020. So, this is something we've been thinking about for a long time. Again, I'm not going to lead that. We've got a guy who ran Inco's global refinery network for a decade. He's joined the team. We've got, rock stars from Japan and Korea who have joined the team. They've built and operated assets, of the kind that we want to do. And so, we're basically going to set we're setting them up to run, as fast and as quickly as possible. And in terms of government funding, there's actually more money available for the process plant than there is for the mine. And we're going to get lots of money from the mine. We're going to get even more money for the process plant, and we'll move with equal pace, through those steps. So we've got the downstream business that's going to be on its way. Agnico Eagle, basically we're the back end of a charity flow-through deal, which allowed us to raise $35 million of flow-through. We have to spend it this year. We closed the deal before the end of 2023 in order to get an additional 10% premium.
Yeah.
So that's $3 million more free money.
Yeah.
And so we had a conference call last Friday where we kind of laid out, okay, here's the exploration plan, for this $35 million. Again, with our geophysical targeting, and we've got 20 plus properties to go after. We've drilled several hundred holes and overall have a 94% hit rate. And since 2022, we've drilled 100 holes and we have a 100% hit rate. So we're quite confident with the geophysical model that we have that, to be able to turn that into actual mineralization. And so, so we committed in this conference call that by this time next year, we'll have published 7 additional resources to Crawford.
100% hit rate?
Yes.
What do you know that, how do you do that? That's...
Oh, it's again, the understanding that this type of deposit that we have, the geophysics does give you, 100%, not 100%, it gives you 80% of the answer.
Yeah.
And then we've been able to, refine that even further. And so, we're very, very happy, with the drilling that we've got, and in terms of scale, those 7 targets that we have that we're going to deliver resources on, those have almost 10 times the target footprint for Crawford. And remember, Crawford's the second largest nickel reserve in the world. So we're not going to deliver 10 times the resource, but because we're not going to drill every square inch of every one of those geophysical footprints, but we'll take a good whack at it, and so we'll see whether we double or triple or see where we get to by this time next year in terms of overall resource base.
But that's vast. And if you kind of extrapolate the capex expectation around Crawford alone, that's vast. You're not going to do that. What are you setting up for? What is success going to look like for you in terms of CNC is going to be bought out? Is it going to, what's happening?
We're going to push and extract as much value as we can. We'll see whether we get bought out or not. But again, we've got the team in place. Des Tranquilla, who's our project guy, he was involved in leading the construction at Detour, just up the road. Mike Cox is running our downstream nickel business. He knows what he's doing down on that front, so there's that business. And then, this exploration, when you have a package of 20 assets that you can sort of group and collect in different ways, we're just figuring out ways to extract additional value, well beyond. And again, just putting the pieces in place so that when the market comes back, and based on last week's news around the nickel market not being the disaster that everybody thought it was, there's going to be an opportunity where we can start to, create, multiples of value given the scale of what we've got.
Right. Have we missed anything? I'm overwhelmed.
No, I mean it's been again, we're 10 weeks into the year. It's been a great start.
Yeah.
And people are going to see a steady news flow we've went from 0 drills in January and we've got 4 drills turning now, and we'll peak out at about 5 drills for most of the year to be able to drill almost 100 kilometers of drilling during 2024 to deliver all those resources and make 5 new discoveries. So.
Okay, so it's a big story with big ambition.
Yeah.
Still a few doubters out there about the nickel market. There's still a few people shouting out from the background the word Indonesia. Mm-hmm. Still people concerned about the fact that new technologies will come along which will allow laterite to kind of feed into the automotive space. Look, there's a bit of uncertainty. What do you say to those people in terms of why Timmons could be a kind of global epicenter for nickel?
Clean nickel sulfide? Very simply, again, Anglo American, one of the world's largest mining companies, invested, right? Agnico Eagle, largest mining company in Canada, invested. Samsung SDI, one of the world's largest battery makers, invested, right? And so, they're all here because they see the potential, of what we've got. Timmons has the infrastructure. Timmons, we did that press conference with, not only the Minister of Mines there, but the mayor of Timmons and one of the First Nations chiefs. And so not many communities are basically out cheering to see a processing plant, built basically in their backyard. But that's the kind of, the communities in Timmons, understand, they embrace mining, they embrace downstream processing. And so, we're lucky that we've got this land package that we think is going to deliver multiple Crawfords, all of them being able to store lots of CO2, and the world wants, more than anything, to find zero carbon materials in any shape or form, and we're ideally positioned, given the community support and all that infrastructure, to be able to deliver on all those assets. So that's
okay. Is there anything that's going on, like say, in terms of the markets, in terms of the economy, in terms of what the nickel market is doing, could be doing, that makes you nervous about the ability to raise funds to actually get Crawford over the line and up and running and into production? We've talked about it multiple times, but I think
zero.
If it's worth talking about, keep talking about it.
Zero.
You're confident.
The interest from the car companies, from the battery supply chain, again, just with all this noise about how horrible the nickel market is, we're literally having, these guys are banging on the door, asking to get as much nickel as quickly as they can.
Right.
And, yes, if you could find another Crawford, we would like a piece of that as well. And so, they have the plans, they have the budgets, they know how much nickel they're going to need by 2027, by 2030, and by 2032, and they know there's very few new projects that can actually deliver it. So, no, we're going to get there.
Let's see what happens this year.
All right,
man.
Thank
you,
sir.
And I appreciate your time, because I know you're busy as heck, and you've got this round table with the great and the good in a few moments' time. So I'll speak to you next week.
Sounds good, sir.
Back in Blighty.
There you go.